Well, we're back again for another session of the 8th grade design project. As you're aware, we've been just coloring away here. I have. If you're doing the project as I'm doing it, you've probably experienced a great deal of coloring going on right now. My plan I've made some time back, it seems like now, is being pretty well worked out. I've had changes along the way. One of the things I've decided to kind of have to deal with is the embellishments, which normally are just decorative touches that go around the edges of your picture. But I've started having some of my stripes that are inside of the picture that I use for movement overlap into the border, and furthermore, that's been happening up here to go on with my trees that are kind of sticking out of the border, and the flags here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just consider that my embellishments. Same thing happened over here. Although I may say it's a little bit underwhelming to meet that requirement. If I were grading it myself, I would probably have to take a half a point off for that. So I'm going to continue with this red that I started on some time ago. I'm looking for my slip sheet because it's going to keep me from smudging up my work too bad here. And it looks like this will have to be the one right here. So I'd like to get a lot of this red done in this session here, and after that I've got some other issues I want to address. I think I've probably, if you're working along at the same pace that I'm working at, we're probably looking at about 2 more sessions to bring this particular piece of artwork to completion. If you're not keeping up with me, then it could be several more sessions for you. This project does need to be brought to closure before too long. Grading will need to be done. Furthermore, quizzing and all of the other procedures that go along with the end of any unit and any class have to take place. So even though this is an E-class for some, a makeup project for others, it's still a class, and the business has to be taken care of as far as that goes. So we will be closing this project up here in just a matter of a few more sessions. I've got a little bit of classical music playing in the background, which is kind of calming to some people. It's calming to me, and I'm kind of like to hear music playing. Normally it's not my particular style, but since this is a class for middle schoolers and not just me making my own artwork at home, then I've decided that classical music is probably appropriate for the occasion. In this case, I think we're listening to some German or Austrian music. I'm not real sure. If you can hear it being recorded. I've always thought this particular camera has really good microphone on it, so it's been used to make band videos and such with over the years. So I'm certain it's picking up the whole orchestra kicking in right now, although I don't have it turned up real loud. I still need to be able to be heard over top of this music that you all are enjoying at this moment in time while you color. If you're keeping up with the instruction, you at this point in time should be getting pretty far along in the project. The music sounds like I should be finishing this project in the background. It sounds like a triumphal march of some sort. Well, at least I'm bringing these two parts together. Maybe that's what it's all about, the celebratory music. Now on to something else, I guess, huh? Alright, I'm going to have to sharpen this pencil in a moment here. I'm going to move on over to this area. Sounds scary. Sounds like something you hear before a football game. Huh. Vikings or something. Okay, I gotta sharpen up my pencil while you all listen to this music and analyze what we're doing here. This red is coming across fantastic here. The last few sessions, this project, at least as far as my project goes, has started coming together really pretty nicely. I'm hoping you're having the same level of success on yours, because when I turn this corner, in fact, I'm just going to start up here and bring these things together like that. So that solution with the blue there, I hope is going to work out. We're going to find out, aren't we? I feel like I should be coloring faster this music. Sounds like there's trouble on the horizon. Get your stuff colored, take off. Like an impending storm or something. Or a battle of some sort. But that's classical music for you. It's usually about something. It's usually allegorical or narrative, meaning it tells a story about something. So something is going on in this symphony. If you figure out what it is, leave it in the comments. Or make a comment on our Google Classroom. Lots of stuff going on in that music. Timpanis, big cymbal crashes. Okay, I'm really making progress here. I know, watching me color. I hope you're coloring yourself as well. I mean, I hope you're not just sitting there watching me color. I hope you're actually going along with the project here. That's how it gets done. If you're keeping up with what I'm doing, you're probably making pretty good progress on it, because I'm pushing my pace pretty quickly here. And there's a lot to color in, but my approach of taking on the big parts first and then working my way down to the details seems to be working, at least for me. So I've got other large areas that once I finish this red border and stripage, I'm going to get on them next, and I think it's going to be the lettering for my initials will be going on next. So it's always kind of a good idea while you're working on one part of a project to really be thinking about the next step in the project as well, and what you're going to be doing ahead of, so a lot of the coloring is tedious physical work, but not necessarily mentally draining, and so that allows you to think about some other things while you're doing this part of the work. Now the detail work, on the other hand, is sometimes really quite mentally draining. I'll agree with that. I'm going to peel my little piece of tape back there and continue my work in this corner here, and then put the piece of tape back. Whenever you're taping down your artwork too, and I recommend it personally, it keeps it from scooting around on you, bad things don't happen to it, it gives you a stable work surface, but also if you just kind of make sure that you touch the tape a lot so that it's not real sticky. It's sticky enough to hold your artwork down, but not so sticky that it tears the corner off of it or removes too much of the color. Because if you have to constantly go back and retouch things and recolor them, then it's really not helping you very much. So if the point of it is to make your work easier and more efficient, then you just got to make sure it doesn't have a great deal of adhesive on it. So the more you reuse a little scrap of tape, you know, it usually will hold your work down and it doesn't damage the artwork. There are specialty tapes for draftsmen and people who draw a lot that they've got the same type of glue on them as kind of on a post-it note, I suppose. It's sticky enough to hold stuff down, but not so sticky that it leaves residue or peels off the colors. Alright, you know, I'm starting to sense that this project is going places here. Some sort of opera going on in the background. I hope they're just saying, that's a great piece of artwork. Alright, nice. Okay, I think I'm going to continue my work over up in this corner. And but you know, I think I'm going to change gears for a minute because I'm getting worn out on looking at that red, and I'd like to put that blue in there. So I'm going to set my red orange off to the side. It's kind of a scarlet color. And pick up this sky blue. It's got a nice working point on it there, and just continue that work over. I'm going to try to blend it together so it's almost invisible that there is ever a division between those two portions of the artwork. So you know, you got to kind of zigzag it in and out there so it camouflages that unintentional flaw. Yeah, I think that's going to be fantastic. Let's get this over here. Let's draw it back against it. Some sort of drama in the opera here. Don't know what it's all about though, but I can sense it. Okay, opacity now. Kind of make all of that disappear like it never happened. It was always the plan all along, maybe. It's barely noticeable. Maybe I will listen to more music as I do these. I have quite a collection of some classical stuff laying around. I think if you want to listen to classical music, there's never a shortage of it on the media. Okay. Alright, that looks great on the projection screen. It's almost completely unnoticeable, so unless somebody knew it had happened, and you all watched me make the change, so unless you're telling everybody, it should be fine. That little scribble technique kind of breaks down any sort of line that might be visible there. As long as we kind of try to blend these two colors together opaquely, it should be almost invisible. It will be invisible to people who don't know that it was done, but to me, I'll always know it was there, but I'm satisfied with the solution, so I can live with it. Alright, that little pointy point. See, that's what's going to get their attention anyway, is the little corner there. It's going to direct their eye right past this minor flaw. So I'm not too upset about the whole thing. In fact, I'm happier about the solution than I am about the potential, flaw in the artwork, to be honest. Okay, I like the way this little corner, that flag, is also poking out there into the border. That's kind of an embellishment of its own as well. So I'm going to have to live with my lack of overly embellished border, but I believe it's enough to fulfill most of the requirement of the project. However, if I had to grade it myself, I would take hit points on the fact that it's not completely correct. It could have been, the embellishments could have been played up more, but I do like the way that this is all kind of coming together here. This blue against the red corner there gives it that kind of arrow-like effect. That's fantastic. Okay, and there's almost, the flaw is nearly unrecognizable. Okay, that means I can go back to doing the red now. And it looks like it's going to have to happen up here. So, it's a long process, it seems like. You wouldn't think that a stripe has so much square, there's so many square inches of space. It's got such a, let's just say, call it a footprint. But that border has got a lot going on in it. And I always have said it's a good idea to have a border around artwork. For one, it just looks good, and secondly, if you're trying to frame it and you've got a border on it, you could cut that border off if you didn't have the appropriate size frame, and you wouldn't really be messing with the artwork too much. But now the way I've created mine, if I did that, if I cut off the border, I'd be cutting off parts of the drawing as well. So sometimes you make a decision, and I would have to specially make sure I frame this at just the right size to not do that. So the size of the artwork would really dictate whether it was framed rather than the size of the frame I had available, I suppose. But it doesn't always have to be that way, especially for class projects. You can, if you put a continuous border around them, like we do at a lot of times with the 6th grade painting project, that's for their parents' benefit as well. It really adds to the decorative effect of the artwork, but it also gives them options for framing it, if they choose to frame it. Okay, this is starting to come together. I can't believe it's taken almost 2 class sessions just to do this red, but I guess you gotta be committed to what you're doing if you're going to have a quality piece of work. I'm starting to run out of red here again. This is going to be the shortest color pencil in the box here pretty soon. But I do require opacity, and I think most of my students, once they have started making their artwork really, really opaque, they also kind of tend to start to prefer it as well. It just takes longer to make it, but if you're going to make a project, you better block off some time for it. These projects can take a while. Alright, we're kind of getting ready to come into the, it looks like the last straightaway, the long straightaway there. So we'll get around that corner. We might switch over to the other side just to keep it interesting. Color from a different direction for a change. Alright. Well, it won't be long though until we'll be into the smaller portions of this. I gotta peel my paper back just like I did down in the other corner there. Make sure it doesn't get torn or bent just because I'm at the corner. You gotta exercise a little bit of patience there. If you get all impatient, that's when you start making mistakes. But I do believe in my approach to creating these projects, which is to start with the largest areas at first. That has benefited me greatly, even in just this one project. It really makes it start to show up as a great, there's just, the level of completion gets boosted up a lot faster that way. And I think it also leads a student to be more committed to the piece of artwork once they see that there's some sort of level of completion coming to it. When they you know, get bogged down in details at first, well, that can, that can just give you a defeatist attitude about whether you will ever be done with the project or not. Okay, I'm going to tape that back down there a little bit so it doesn't move around as I'm trying to work. I'm going to retouch this area. It's not quite opaque. Somebody is singing in the background there, and I hope they're saying good things about what they're saying here on this project. Okay, so we're going around the corner. Let's start up here and see what happens. Mix it up a little bit here. Tell you what though, my coloring muscles are getting pretty worn out here. My fingers are getting a little bit sore from working on this project and the 7th grade project and the 6th grade project also. So these projects can, if you're doing all 3 grade levels of them, yeah, wear your arm out and your hand. But I think the beauty of all this is there will always be a visual record of the process of doing this project, and that can be very, very powerful instructively. And so although my preference is to be in a physical classroom, this will have some really good applications as for use in the actual physical classroom. So I'm kind of happy about that. And that also, this demonstration gives people who sometimes struggle just trying to figure out what it is they want to draw or how to organize it. It gives them a chance to watch the organizational process happen and participate in it at whatever speed is comfortable for them until they can come to their own organizational system. I'm only just demonstrating one that I have used to organize the content and the meaning, the emphasis of what our artwork is. That's, I think, part number 8 of our notes, as the idea that you're trying to communicate something to somebody. And art is simply a form of communication. And when you're attempting to communicate with people, well, you have to have some level of organization to it so that they can wrap their mind around whatever your message might be. Alright, I'm reaching across all this so I can peel this piece off over here. Move my sleeves up out of here. Turn my slip sheet around. Let's go around the corner. And there's a little corner of my flag, by the way, flipping up there. Oh, gotta be careful. Now I am coloring on a white background as well. So my project is sitting on top of a white surface. So I may mark that surface, but it won't affect my project. Alright. Opacity. Let's see what's happening there. The projection screen says it looks pretty good. So I'm going to stick it down there. There we go. Have to live with it now. Got a little bit more red colored pencil here, so I'm just going to keep at it. Now I like colored pencils because they don't, you don't have to wait for them to dry. Paint, on the other hand, I also like paint, but you always got to wait for paint to dry, and you spend all your time, believe it or not, when you're painting, watching the paint dry. And so while it's drying, you spend a lot of time just looking at the painting, trying to figure out, you know, what it is you got to do next, because painting's complicated work. If you want to make a good painting, that is. Making a bad painting is pretty easy. Of course, if you set out to intentionally make a bad painting, that might not be as easy as you think, especially if you're already a pretty good painter. I'm going to have to get some more red. I'm starting to feel pretty hopeful about getting all of that red finished in this session here today, and that would be fantastic, because now I can move on to the next thing, which I'm going to have to bet is working on the letters up here in the upper left-hand corner. So I'm going to shield this and keep working my way along. It's all about patience and persistence. And that's how you get these done. Now, 8th graders too. This is a, this is a reflective project as well. It asks you to, get some sort of understanding of yourself and your place in the world and where your ancestors came from and how your culture affects your beliefs and what's important to you, and how to communicate all that through the use of colors and shapes. And so it's really a little bit more complicated than I think people give it credit for, but it's a good project. And some people they struggle to know about themselves. It's kind of hard to learn sometimes about the family history, and you have to try to make connections with people that know these things. I was fortunate. I have a large number of aunts and uncles, and as a kid I would always ask these things, and of course, your older aunts and uncles are ready to tell you stories about their childhood at any moment in time. So there was no shortage of my family members telling me about their time as a child. That was, and some of the stories were crazy. So that's how I know a little bit about the family history of my particular family. But your family history is different, and that's what this project is supposed to have you reflecting on. And also sometimes just asking questions about your family history to your parents and grandparents, and trying to do a little bit of work on your family tree and figure out what your ancestry is all about, and if there were famous people in the past, or where and how people succeeded in the world. It's all really a big story, and that's what this piece of artwork is supposed to kind of represent, is almost not just your story, but your family's story, and the story of your parents and grandparents, and what you all believe is important. So I guess that's what it's all about, really, is having you spend your time reflect on that, and spend some time talking to your parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters, older brothers and sisters, or younger brothers and sisters, some cases, neighbors down the street that might have been around when your parents met, or when the family moved in many years ago. Wow, that is looking really, really good. I'm really pleased with this. Just where all of these shapes come together is so cleanly separated and defined one from the next image. So high value. And that's really important in making work, at the middle school level, is to try to get those colors, to use those to separate the shapes, not necessarily try to use a line to separate your shapes. Okay, so the trees are really standing out against that scarlet orange there, scarlet red, excuse me. But it's a red orange, I guess, technically. That's what it says right on the colored pencil, in fact. Okay, sounds like there's some sort of excitement or stress building in the background here with the music. I wonder what it means. I hope it's not too stressful. Alright, here's a little detail coming up around the symbol for manhood. I'm going to have to do a little bit. I've got this little sharp little corner on my colored pencil, so I can tuck it right up next to that. There's this tiny point that's sticking out just above the green swamp water. Just that little teeny detail, that tiny little corner, makes a big difference in the way that the project looks. Alright, it kind of directs your eye up into that redness. Huh. Okay, this is starting to come together here. The colors are really showing great against each other. Okay, another sharpening. I might make it here I will make it. I don't have that much left to do on this border. I'm going to finish it here this session. And that will allow me to really take on the next requirement here. So, maybe it's the music that's caused me to have this higher production rate. Okay, here we go. That looks fantastic. Okay, and on to the home stretch for the border here and the stripes. LA, that means Louisiana, by the way, not Los Angeles. That's where my father is from. The Shreveport area, Bossier City. If you're familiar with Louisiana, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, you can look them up. It's a big Air Force base in Bossier City. There's Shreveport is an old city, been on the map forever. I think it's the northernmost. Well, it's one of the more northernmost. Well, it's certainly the northwestmost large city in Shreveport, in Louisiana. Shreveport is. So, but my grandfather and my grandparents on my father's side, and my father are all from outside of Shreveport, a little town called Minden, and another smaller town called Doyline, which has one flashing yellow light in it, and that's all. You could drive right past it otherwise. Doyline. When I was a kid, I would get letters from my grandmother, and when I would write back to her, I would send them to the return address, and I always thought it was Dayline because my grandmother had a distinctive handwriting. And so I'd always send these letters back to Dayline, but they made them to my grandmother somehow or another. It wasn't until I was a grown adult I realized it was called Doyline. So, yeah. Okay, here we go. Rolling that colored pencil right in my fingertip to get that little sharp corner down right against that line. That is a good looking border. Let's take a look at it here on the projection screen. That is fantastic. Alright, now that leads me to probably the next thing I'm going to have to work on, and I'm going to bet that's going to be this corner up here. Bring that to some completion, and this stripe that goes through here, that also, and the part of the ring. So I'm just going to keep working my way through the from the largest spots to the smallest spots, and try not to drag my arm through it. So as I go along. So, and I work. Since I'm right-handed, I definitely like to work from the left side to the right side. That keeps me from dragging my hand through the finished artwork, although it's really difficult to make a piece of artwork, especially something like this, without putting your hands on it at some point in time. And so you have to just protect it, and that's what I do with this index card. So I'm going to start this area of the letters over in here, and hopefully I'm happy to be on to the next thing. That border seemed to be taking forever, but a good looking piece of work. You have to be committed to the fact that it could take a while. Sounds like they're celebrating the fact my border is done. Alright. Actually, coloring in black is kind of more calming to my eyes right now. The high saturation colors, the reds and yellows and oranges, are really, they can mess with your vision a little bit. They mess with mine when I'm staring at them for long, long periods of time. Okay, I'm going to continue here. And the black kind of absorbs all of those colors, and so it's maybe a little more calming to the eye. Now, the black colored pencils, at least the Crayola colored pencils, they smear quite frequently. So it's really important that you, once you get this color down opaquely, that you don't, you know, drag your hand through it, or it'll smear into your brighter colors for sure, especially colors like yellows and oranges and your brighter colors, that is. Okay. Oh, I thought maybe the music was over, but I hear it coming back. So it's some sort of symphony music and a pause in the middle of it, I think. Intermission. I hear it back there. Not much going on in it. Okay. Now also, the red and the black always look good together. That's a classic color combination there. Alright. Oh, there's the dinger. That means I got more done this session than I anticipated. I thought I'd only get the border finished, but I'm going to keep on working for a few more minutes here because I have much to do, probably the same as you. So I think I'm going to try to finish out these portions of the black portion of my project here, at least for the letter B. And then in the next couple of sessions, it's just going to be getting on to all the, just keep working down the biggest parts to the smallest parts. That's how I'm going to work on it. This right here is a small part, but I'm going to work on it right now too, because it just caught my attention. So. That's odd. There's going to be a strange shape in there.